Welcome to another awesome episode of the Show. We're two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I'm usually joined by my cousin Landon. Unfortunately, Landon is unable to join in again this week, so I'm thrilled to welcome another guest co host. Everyone, please welcome my good friend Andy.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Listen, rumors are Landon's never coming back. So,
He's off till after the holidays, I'm sure.
yeah,
Uh,
we'll
I've
see.
known I've known Andy since we were both students at Bluefield University. So we're all friends with Brandon, who was here last week.
Hmm.
So this is a friendship that goes back more than 20 years. Today we are going to kind of dive into Andy's life, his experiences, and just get to know him a little bit better. So Andy, I want to kick things off with your one of your main roles in life. Of course, you're a husband and a father, but you are a children's minister. And so, how did you get into that? And what do you enjoy most about working with kids in that capacity?
Yeah, well, let me just correct you there because I got a big promotion last year, and I am now a senior director of family ministry. So my pastoring goes to the family.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, no, it was really simple, man. I started out in student ministry. When I was in high school, I had a really great youth pastor, and I saw the job that she did. And I thought you get to like wear jeans to work. You get to hang out with students, you get to eat pizza, and that's your job. And so I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do that. Um, and so I remember being in like eighth grade, like an eighth grade drama class, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was like, I'm gonna be a youth pastor. And then, so I got out of college and I started seminary, and then I was working in a church in youth ministry. And I kind of, seminary wasn't the right time then, and I really wanted to work. And so I ended up moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was in student ministry. And then I met these guys that were doing children's ministry in a way that like I had just never seen before. And I kept like inching closer and closer and closer to them. I just really wanted to be a part of their world. And so then I found out about this thing, family ministry, which is really the church supporting parents and grandparents and caregivers at home. And so I was hooked. Like I was just totally hooked on it. And the way that we were doing things in Charlotte was aimed at trying to get dads into church. And so it was all this stuff that I loved. It was like building contraptions and building things out of Lego and like shooting these really kind of fun story videos and stuff. So it was like all these hobbies and passions of mine all wrapped up into this calling to ministry. And so, yeah, I haven't looked back since. I mean, that was 2007, and I just haven't ever looked back. So that's all I've been doing the last 16 years.
That's awesome. What you were saying about kind of your initial draw to student ministry. I remember when I think it was after my freshman year of college, I went back home to Roanoke and I was the intern with my youth minister back at North Roanoke Baptist Church. And it's like, okay, so on Mondays we worked, we got everything ready for the next Sunday. And then the rest of the week we just hung out in the youth room. And I swear all we did was play foosball and ping pong. It was like, this
Yeah,
is a job.
yeah. Well, my first job in student ministry, I was an intern at my home church, which is First Baptist of Richmond. And a couple things that I remember about that. One, we owned so First Baptist is here in Richmond, Virginia. It's on Monument Avenue, which is this old historic, street, and there's all these beautiful built old brick buildings and stuff and homes. And so just a street over, Park Avenue, the church owned a beautiful house, all brick home. And so we had converted that into offices and classrooms and stuff. And so my first office ever in ministry was a converted bathroom. So it was a bathroom in the home that they had stripped like the toilet and the shower and the sink and stuff out of, put new flooring, and then it was my office. And so I thought like, oh, this is about as low as you can get, right? um, but that summer that I was interning, I went to a conference here in town, took some students to a conference, and sat with a girl who was newer to the church and sat with her in the midst of her hearing all this stuff for the first time and hearing about Jesus and hearing about, his death and resurrection and the new life that is found in that for her, and sat with her while she really took a step for the very first time to say, "Hey, I trust Jesus as Lord and Savior." And then her stepdad, Todd, came to pick her up, and I got to sit with her while she told him that. And so this idea of ministry went from like, oh yeah, it's like really fun and you kind of hang out and play foosball and like eat pizza and wear jeans and stuff, to like, if I just get to do that once a year, that I'm in. Like that'll be enough, because the rush of that and the payoff of that of sitting with that kid while they made that decision was, I mean, it was really, really cool. So
That's awesome. And you may have just answered my next question. I was going to say, I'm sure that you've got more than a few crazy stories from your time in kids ministry.
yeah, yeah.
But I was going to say, have there been any like standout moments for you? I'm sure that's one. But do you have any other like standout moments or programs that you've put together over the years?
Man, I always like anytime what crazy stories do you have? I mean, you've been around this as well, so you know that like there's a bunch of them. Um, but a few that come to mind are when I was working in Charlotte, we took a trip to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with some actually went with some middle school, high school students to Pittsburgh to do like a mission trip, kind of service project thing. And so we were coming home, and the it was already weird enough because the driver of our van was a player for the Carolina Panthers.
I
And
love
so
that.
that was cool because we had some of the players of the church, and his son was in the group. And so he ended up going on the trip. So I was like already, as this huge Carolina Panthers fan, like I'm sitting next to like a guy on the team. So that was already bizarre enough. And so I got to know him on the trip. And anyway, we're driving home and we're late. We're like behind schedule. We had told the parents we'd be home. And so he's like, no nonsense. We're not stopping. We're on a schedule. So we had told the kids like we're about an hour away. If you can hold bathroom, if you can hold, like, we're just trying to get home. So from the back of the van, half the kids are asleep. From the back of the van, we hear this young man just go, I got to go to the bathroom. And so we're like, buddy, can you hold it? We're almost there. And he's like, okay, I'll try. Now this kid is like the outcast of the group. Had a hard time connecting with other students. He's crammed in the back of this van. And so a few minutes go by and he's like, I really got to go to the bathroom. And so we go, all right, we're going to stop, but like, it's got to be fast. So rest stop comes up, we pull off. It's like, nobody move. If you don't have to go, stay in the van. So I get out with this kid. I run ahead, like, drop kick the door open to the bathroom, quickly look and see like there's nobody in there. Okay, cool. You can go in. He goes in and it's like a minute goes by, 2 minutes goes by, 5 minutes goes by. And we're like, all right. So I finally go in and I'm like, hey, buddy, everything okay? And I just hear from behind the stall, I just hear the words, I didn't make it. And
Oh,
so now this student had not needed to go number one. He had needed to go number two, and he did not make it. And so now I'm like, okay, you have this outcast kid. We have like 45 minutes in a van. If there is even a hint of that smell on him, these other students in the van will roast him and never let him forget it. So I'm like, this is it. This is what this job is, right? So I go, all right, here's what we're gonna do. And probably all of this, by the way, is like, so the fact that I was just in the bathroom with this kid is already breaking rules. But I just go, take your underwear off and give me your pants. And so which is all, again, I know how that sounds. So he slips the stuff under the door. I grab like a bunch of paper towels to use as gloves. I throw his underwear away. I go over. I'm like washing the kid's pants with soap and water, trying to get the smell out. I slip the pants back and I go, put them on. Let's go. So he's mortified. We get back to the van. We get in, and the guy that was driving was like, "What took so long?" And I just go, "He didn't make it." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "I took care of it." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "I took care of it." And so uh, it was months, like weeks later, that I finally got to tell him the whole story, because I certainly was not going to tell him the van. But I thought, we made it all the way home, and nobody knew, nobody was the wiser. We get off the van. that kid goes home, he gives me a tip of the cap, you know, and it's like, but that's what this is. It's real moments with real people, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that night. So
You may have saved that kid's life.
his social life for sure. Yeah. So I want to look him up now. Like he's probably an adult now. I want to see where he's at.
I think everyone's got one of those stories where you didn't quite make it. At
Yeah.
least I hope
Yeah.
so. Otherwise, it's just me and that kid.
Right. And so I'll tell you another quick one. And it happened actually like 3 weeks ago. So I have an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. And so I am their children's pastor, like at church, because I do work with our children and then do the whole family thing. So I was in my own son's small group, and we were doing it was like a charades type thing. And so he was trying to communicate uh like drinking something, right? So like that I don't even know why, but he was trying to communicate drinking something like from a cup, right? And for whatever reason, in his mind, he went like fancy teacup, okay? But he didn't do this, he did this. So I just look over and my son is going,
Nice.
and I have no context as to why he's doing that. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, you know, and he was trying to say drinking something. So I like ran down the hall, you know, after it was over and told like 3 people really quick. I'm like, I should I say this is so funny. So, but it's my own
That's
kid.
great. That's good.
Yeah.
That's actually really great. All right, thinking back to our college years, what are some of your favorite memories from Bluefield University? Any crazy stories you can share with our listeners here?
Oh man. Whew, crazy stories. I mean, the thing is, I lived 2 lives at Bluefield. I lived life while you were still there.
Right?
Um, I was lucky enough to become friends with guys like you and Brandon and Mark, who were older than I was. And then you all graduated and you left me there. And I spiraled down into like debauchery. So I'm going to tell stories from like the first half
Probably
because I think
wise. You're a minister
that's
now.
what, yeah, that's what your listeners really want. I like the story. It's a you and me story. Like the day I met you, I think during freshman orientation. I actually made a joke about this when I texted you today about it, or Poloed about this today. But um, we were like getting into teams for these like field games during freshman orientation, and you were there helping out. I don't know if it's like student union or something. And so we were breaking into teams, and you have to remind me, like, I don't know who yelled what to who, but it was like a team name was like the Wonders. And then did you yell out like, hey, that's on netters? Or did I yell out that's on netters? Do you remember
So
this even?
yeah, no, I absolutely do. Yeah, so I was part of the student union board. This was my first senior year there, and because I did the 5 year thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got a doctorate. Yeah, totally.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was one of the leaders of one of the random groups of freshmen, and we were 2 or 3 groups down from where you were in that field, and I claimed that we were naming our group the Wonders, or no, I said Oneaters. I said
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah,
a team
yeah.
the Oneaters, and you shouted back at me, "Hey, that's Onetters," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Did we just become best friends?"
Yeah. Yeah. That's a deep cut for your listeners, by the way. That's a deep cut from the movie That Thing You Do with the Wonders. So the Vicksburgs from Pittsburgh. So yeah, so that was a moment that it was like, oh, I have like a kindred spirit somewhere on this field, somewhere. And anyway, so that yeah, that was really good.
Well, the night
Other
before that
things,
was when I first knew who you were, because it was karaoke night, and you
right,
got up and sang "Fancy" by Reba McEntire, which was stellar, by
right,
the way.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that was a lot of people. That was their first introduction to Andy was
yeah,
was him getting up and singing Reba, and again doing a spectacular job.
and here's the thing, I fear that there's somebody listening to this who doesn't know that song. and doesn't understand how just absolutely awkward that was. So here we are in at this little college, this very conservative Christian college, um, just full of youth group kids, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get up at karaoke and I sing a song by Reba McEntire, which is not altogether that crazy. I mean, Bluefield is sort of a blue collar, sort of country music listening town, but this song in particular is about a young woman whose mother teaches her how to prostitute so that she can make enough money to keep the family alive, right? Because the baby's going to starve to death. And so here I am singing all that in front of all these people who I've never met. And I got a couple looks. I kept getting called fancy. Like I'd go to Walmart and they'd be like, "Hey, fancy." Um, I actually dusted that song off this summer. I was at the beach with my family, and there was a karaoke place, and my brothers were like, "You should go sing this song." And so I did it. It was not good. I started way too high,
Uh,
and I couldn't reach the notes. But I actually tried to walk off. Like I didn't know. There's like lots of verses that I did not know, so I tried to walk off, and the karaoke girl was like, "No, no, no, you can't leave." And she sang without looking at the screen. And I was like, "Do you know every song on here?" Anyway,
those karaoke folks probably do know all the songs because they hear them over and over again.
yeah. But who's singing "Fancy" by Rita Back?
All right, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You grew up in Richmond's West End.
Yeah.
How did that environment shape who you are today? And do you have any like favorite memories or quirks about growing up in that area?
I mean, not really. I mean, for the folks in Richmond, like the West End has this, or used to at least, and still to some degree does, but had this like hoity-toity, uppity, you know, we're the rich kids, and I was not from a rich family, so like it was always this weird thing. Now certainly like we were a middle class family. I'm one of four kids, so there wasn't like a ton of money. My parents made sure we had, you know, the things that we needed, but like we were not wealthy. And so it was very interesting being from this area, like this short pump area that had this reputation for money, and then but yet we were just like middle of the road folks. Um, and so that probably bred a little bit in me of like, oh, I gotta try to keep up, and I can't let them know that I don't have something. Um, and so I don't know if that bred like some competitiveness or some jealousy or some materialism. Like all those things were baked into me. Now that being said, I also grew up in a very loving household with a mom and a dad who took us to church, and my dad coached my baseball and football teams, and my mom was the room mom at every school we went to. And so that shaped me far more than the area that I grew up in.
Sure.
Um, but it was nice to be from where I'm from. Like our schools were really nice. And when I got into high school, they started building this giant mall, and that was like a huge deal. This mall opened. Um, but yeah, I'm proud of where I'm from. But I no longer live there. So I have moved south of the river in Richmond, which is like a huge deal to people. Like when we were growing up, the West End and then South Side, right? And there was no easy way to get here. So we had friends from church that lived on the South Side, and it would be like 45 minutes to get to the. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so there were jokes like, "Oh, you got to have a passport to go to the South Side." So then they built like a bypass highway 288 that you can now get to the South Side in like 10 minutes. And so I fell in love with a South Side girl, and moved to the South Side, and I'm now fully converted and never going back.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because that is the perfect segue into my next question. I was gonna kind of segue into family stuff. And I wanted to see if you'd be willing to share the story of how you and your wife met, because in my opinion, I think you guys have one of the best like meet cute kind of stories that I've ever heard. So, would you be willing to share some of that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, there's the short version and the long version and then the super long version. But basically, I had moved back to Richmond from Charlotte, and I don't mind saying here, I had been previously married and was divorced, and so then I came back to Richmond, and so as a late 20s single guy in the church, I mean, it was like everybody and their brother was like, "Oh, you got to meet my friend, you got to meet my cousin, you got to meet my coworker, you got to meet my niece." Um, but meeting people was just like, and I had gone on some dates, and it was like, I don't know, you know. And so then I got invited to be like a guest speaker, guest preacher at this church. The guy that grew up behind me, he was the worship leader at that church. He goes, "Yeah, you come speak at this thing." And so I ended up meeting, some mutual friends, or some friends came to hear that. And so I finished, and I was meeting people and shaking hands with people, and I was like, to one of my very good friends, Jennifer, I was like, who is your friend? You know, over there in like row number 4. Uh, and she's like, that's Sarah. Now, it is impossible to preach a sermon and then hit on someone who was there. Like that does not work, right?
Right.
And so I definitely did not do that. But it was like, hey, let's all go out to eat afterwards. And so we went out to eat, and I sat next to my wife, Sarah, and we were talking like across the table to other people. But then every once in a while, you overhear something, and like, oh, I watched this TV show, and I'm like, oh, I love that TV show. Anyway, like I was saying, and then, oh, I've been there. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, yeah. So I didn't really talk very much to her, but it became really clear, like, oh man, we have things in common. And so I was leaving, and I was like talking to my friend Jennifer. I'm like, I'm getting people are like trying to set me up with people, and I'm going on dates with people, and like all this stuff. And here's somebody who's like, I think she's attractive, and I think she's funny, and we have things in common. Like, I'm gonna make a go of it. Like, let me try something. So that was February the 12th. So 2 days later is Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
And so one, do you see those balloons?
Yeah, I have no idea how that happened. Did you mention, was
Maybe,
it Valentine's Day? Is that what mentioned it?
yeah, maybe you'll get balloons too. Anyway, so 2 days later was Valentine's Day. So I was talking to that friend Jennifer on Valentine's Day, like, I've got all this love inside of me, and I've got all this romantic energy, and I have nowhere to, use it, like nothing to do with it, because I have nobody, I have no romantic relationship in my life. And so I'm like, I'm gonna like make a move here, and I'm just gonna try to do a big gesture for Sarah. And so one of the things that we had talked about was a shared love of the show How I Met Your Mother. And so I was like, I'm gonna get her a blue French horn. And then I'm like, there are no blue French horns anywhere. Like that's not a thing. So I was like, I'm gonna make her a blue French horn. And so I had like some canvas, and I had some like chalk pastel things. So I drew this blue French horn on this canvas. And I was like, I'm gonna go leave it at her house. And my friend Jennifer's like, that is so creeper. Like that is just so that's the worst. And I'm like, no, it's I'm gonna do it. And so I typed up this little card that said like, hey, the first time that like Ted like took Robin to dinner, he like got her a blue French horn. And I was like, I didn't take you to dinner, but like I was at dinner and you were at dinner. So like here's a blue French horn. So I went and left that at her house. Like literally snuck up to her, front steps, like in the middle of the night. Which looking back, I mean, how crazy is that? But left it for her, and then kind of like, hey, we'll see what happens. And so we ended up connecting the next day, or sometime later, but maybe the next day. She's in the next room. She'll tell me when I get off of this. Um, but we were like, hey, you want to go and hang out, right? And so we ended up having a date, and it was like the worst date in the world. Like it was the worst date ever for both of us, and we couldn't really figure out. Couldn't figure out like why did this not? I mean, now I know why it didn't go well, because we had a date scheduled and I canceled it and then rescheduled it, and it was just like a Wednesday night. It was raining, like it was awful. But we had this horrible date, and I remember later talking to my friend Jennifer, going like, I don't understand it. Like, why did this not work? let's give it another try. So I said, well, invite her. Let's all go get coffee, And so, or I was actually couch shopping. I was like, invite her to couch shopping with me. Like that's a normal thing that somebody gets invited to. So she showed up, and then we went and got coffee. And our friend, mutual friend Jennifer, was like, "Oh, I gotta go." And so we ended up staying and had a great conversation. And like we were sitting at a Starbucks, and some ducks were walking at our feet. And I took a picture of it, and it was like early Instagram because I had like that really kind of aged film filter on the post. I remember that. But coffee turned into dinner, and dinner turned into dating and marriage and kids and all that stuff. So shoot your
Congratulations.
shot. That's what I say to your listeners: shoot your shot. If you think it's
You
crazy,
never
just
know.
do it. You never
That's right.
know.
Even if it seems creepy and stalkery, just drop stuff
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
All right. Gonna move into some kind of some rapid fire questions if you're up for that.
yeah.
All right. Favorite childhood TV show?
Ooh, favorite childhood TV show. I mean, I'm gonna go like Stay by the Bell. I mean, I know that's not like childhood,
Here it
but
is.
I had older siblings, and so I saw stuff earlier. So I'll say Stay by the Bell.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Any historical figure? Is Jesus the right answer? I don't.
For Sunday school, I'd say yes,
um,
but I mean, we'll
yeah,
accept
for
other
Sunday
things
school.
here.
You know, I did. mm, See, my thing is, I'm too obsessed with like movies and pop culture and stuff. So it's like if you said like any character, I mean, I could have told you like 50 characters I want to have dinner with. And what's really sad is at Bluefield University, I was a history major. So, but I'll go like, after the success of Hamilton, I'll go with Alexander Hamilton.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, for sure, a night owl.
Yeah, that's what I figured. If you could time travel, would you go to the past or the future?
Future.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Wait a minute. I would go to the. Let me back up.
Okay.
I would go to the future for just like sheer curiosity. I would go to the past to like Marty McFly it and or like Biff Tannen it and get the almanac and then make bets and get rich. So yeah,
Yeah.
coffee or tea,
Coffee or tea?
Diet Coke.
Okay. If you had a superpower for a day, what would it be?
Mm. I mean, I I just want to be invisible.
Okay. It's very super villainish. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
favorite pizza topping?
I mean pepperoni, but like pepperoni alone is kind of boring. So I'm like pepperoni, bacon, roasted red peppers.
All right. Sounds good to me. What's the last song you listened to on repeat?
I've been listening to the Birth of a King Christmas album from Tommy Prophet and like O Come O Come Emmanuel. Yeah, so we're doing this at Christmas time, so I'm getting that. Uh, but other than that, we listened to three songs on repeat in the car with my kids. It's Raining Tacos, I Love Bread, and Space Unicorn. There's
Where's
the
the balloons
balloons
again?
again. That's
What is
weird.
happening? I'm not. I
Yeah.
swear, I'm not doing anything. This is the first time it's ever happened. That's so weird. If your life had a movie title, what would it be?
Um, I use this phrase a lot, and I've used this phrase for a long time in ministry and just in life. But this phrase is awaken the wonder, which is just like that's what I'm trying to do is just tell stories in such a way that like it just makes people go like, what? I got to know more. Like, ooh, that's curious, that's interesting. What And so yeah, I think awaken the wonder would be the title.
Right? What's something you've always wanted to learn but haven't had the chance?
Always wanted to learn, but haven't had a chance. I mean, I don't know a musical instrument, and my son is taking drum lessons right now. And I'm like, oh man, if I could go back, I would have taken like guitar lessons or piano lessons or something.
Hey, it's never too late, man. All you
Right.
need is like three chords on the guitar, and you've got like 8,000 songs. All right, continuing going on. Cats or dogs. Excuse me.
I'm allergic to cats, and I am a sworn enemy of dogs. I hate them so much.
Yeah. Crypto, you didn't hear that, buddy. You're good. Uh, if you,
Can I just say, by the way, like culturally, it's acceptable to say I don't like cats. But the minute that you say I don't like dogs, people are like, you have no soul.
what is wrong with you?
Yeah, yeah,
Hey, it's the same way with me. I say I don't like chocolate, and people look at me like I'm sold
yeah,
my soul to Satan.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, if you could visit any place in the world right now, where would it be?
I want to go anywhere where I can see the Northern Lights. I've like put that on my bucket list for my life. I just want to go stand under it one time and see it.
We should all take a trip to Iceland sometime. Just
Yeah,
like a bunch of us plan a trip. That'd be awesome.
yeah.
Let's see. Favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone? Uh, Instagram. I mean, or Reddit. I'm on Reddit quite a bit. Um, yeah.
Okay. If you could have a conversation with any living person, who would it be?
Any living person? Maybe Christopher Nolan. I like his movies a lot. Or mm, yeah, I'll go Christopher Nolan.
Okay. What's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
The most adventurous thing I have ever done. I mean, I had kids. I think that's been quite an adventure. Um, I you were a part of a couple of these trips, but you know, the first one ever was our mutual friend Mark Heitz. I called him like on a Friday. I was living in Charlotte. I said, "Hey, you want to go to Notre Dame for a football game tomorrow?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I jumped in the car. I went and picked him up in Bluefield. We drove from Bluefield to Indianapolis that day. Got a hotel. Got up the next day. Drove to South Bend. Went to the game. No tickets. We scalped tickets. We got back in the car and realized I had forgotten to take that Sunday off of church. So we had to drive straight back. Um, we slept in like shifts in the car.
Nice.
And I don't know how we made it. Like we should have died. I mean, I was so tired making that drive. But I made it back to Charlotte at like 7 a.m., took a shower, went to church, finished church, went to lunch, played a flag football game, went to small group, then came home and just about died. So, but that was really fun. But years later, we got you on one of those trips, uh, and
Yeah.
or two of them. Did you go to, or you went to
I just went to the Big Ten.
Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Yeah, Big Ten championship. So
That was a good one though.
yeah, it was fun.
Let's see. Okay, what's your go-to karaoke song other than
Fancy,
Fancy?
yeah. Reba McEntire. Yeah, yeah. That's about it.
All right.
So,
If you could have any job for a day, what would it be?
ooh, I would love to be a designer of Lego sets.
Nice.
So I would love to be like the lead designer on the Lego set.
Be awesome.
Yeah,
What is a skill you wish you had mastered by now?
a skill that I wish I had mastered by now. I'm not a great listener. I would like to be a better listener. I also have zero understanding of like finance. Like I don't know how to. I joke like we joked like I used to not know where we banked. I don't even know. I have no like budgeting skills. I, Basically anything required to like be a full fledged adult, I don't have. So
All right, last one. What's the weirdest talent you have?
the weirdest talent I have. Um, I don't really have like a lot of talent. That's weird. Maybe not necessarily talent, but like accomplishments. I have like some strange accomplishments. Like I was in a runway fashion show for Gap Kids when I was a child. Um, I was in several commercials when I was a child in the Richmond area, and so I always throw that out for like two truths and a lie. Um, So yeah, maybe that's it. I don't really have a lot of talent though.
Don't sell yourself short, man. Uh,
I mean, I'm good at some things, but nothing that's like weird.
Nothing comes across as like bizarre. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up, I just want to ask any exciting plans or projects on the horizon for you?
Whew. Let's see.
Get like hot ones. We're like, we got this camera, this camera, this camera. Tell us what you're going.
Oh, hot ones. Yeah. Well, Christmas is coming, so that's exciting. Um, and then yeah, I mean, just like normal stuff. I'm just trying to be the best version of husband and father I can be right now. You know, we've got this 8 and 5 year old that are just amazing and wonderful, and we have no idea how to parent them. We have no idea what we're doing, and so we're learning and just flying by the seat of our pants. And so tomorrow will produce some grand adventure for us as parents, and I can't wait for that.
That's awesome. That's a great perspective on parenthood, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so where can we find you on social media if you want to be found?
Yeah, you can find me on Tumblr. No, I'm just kidding. Is that even a thing anymore? You can find me on
Modernot.com.
blogosphere, blogspot, lycos.com. No, I'm pretty
Still
much
have a
just on
Hotmail.
Instagram. Yeah, I'm pretty much just on Instagram at ANDYBERR. Some guy out there with the name Andy Barry has taken all the Instagram, I mean, all the social media handles. So I just dropped the Y, and I'm Andy Bayer.
Andy Bear.
And then you can find my church, Crestwood Church. I would love for you guys to check out what we're doing and see what I do in my professional life. Um, come see that.
You just had your big thing for Christmas, the Jingle Jam, right?
Jingle Jam. That's right. Yep. That's a big family Christmas party that we have, and it was train themed. So I got to be a train conductor, train engineer. Have a bunch of fun with that. Shoot confetti cannons to make it snow and stuff. So yeah, it was really fun.
Nice. All right. I want to thank Andy once again for his willingness to take the hot seat this week. I want to remind our listeners to like, subscribe, hit that little bell icon to be notified whenever we post something new. And don't forget, Andy will be back for our next episode to share the greatest babysitting story since When a Stranger Calls.
Absolutely.
It's going to be Adventures in Babysitting. So come back for that one. And until next time, have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.